The searing pain hit me like a bolt of lightning, radiating from my core through every nerve ending in my body. I cried out, gripping the bed rails until my knuckles turned white. The contractions were coming faster now, intense waves slamming into me. "You're doing great. Just keep breathing," the nurse encouraged. I tried to focus on her calming voice, using it as an anchor against the agony. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the sharp cries of a newborn pierce the air. "It's a girl," the doctor proclaimed. Relief and joy flooded through me as they placed my precious baby girl into my arms. Her tiny fingers grasped at mine as I held her close. In that moment, all the pain dissolved away. I looked up to see Nolan, my husband of 5 years, staring down at us. But instead of the loving gaze I expected, his face was etched with tension. His eyes flickered with an emotion I couldn't quite place. "She's perfect," I whispered, tears of happiness trailing down my cheeks. Nolan gave a curt nod. "Get some rest. I need to make a call," he said abruptly before slipping out of the room. A gnawing feeling began to take hold in my gut. Something wasn't right. Ever since I had gotten pregnant, Nolan had grown increasingly distant and cold. It was a stark contrast to the man I fell in love with, who had once been my biggest supporter. I tried to push away the dark thoughts creeping in. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Nolan returned half an hour later, his jaw clenched. I searched his face, looking for any trace of joy or excitement, but found none. "Who was on the phone?" I asked. He avoided my gaze. "No one. Look, we need to talk." I noticed he was still wearing his wedding ring, the plain gold band I had placed on his finger 5 years ago, the one he promised he would never take off. But now it seemed like a lie. "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Nolan stood rigidly at the foot of the bed, his eyes cold. "This isn't working. I've tried, but I can't do this anymore." His words dropped like stones in the pit of my stomach. "Do what exactly?" "This." He made a gesture with his hand. "I'm in love with someone else." The room started spinning. This had to be a nightmare. "What are you saying?" I whispered. He shoved his hands in his pockets. "Her name is Cassidy. We've been seeing each other for months. I'm going to be with her." Suddenly, the past year replayed in my mind on fast forward. Nolan's unexplained absences, his emotional distance, it all clicked into place. Rage boiled up inside me. "You cheated on me while I was pregnant with your child." He stood there, stone-faced. "Cassidy was there for me in ways you weren't." The audacity of his words stole the breath from my lungs. I glared at him with every ounce of loathing I could muster. "Get out," I seethed. "Get out before I call security to drag you out of here." For a moment, Nolan just stared at me. Then, without another word, he turned and left, the door clicking shut behind him with dreadful finality. I looked down at my innocent baby, still cradled protectively in my arms. Nolan had turned his back on us, but I would never abandon my child. A steely resolve rose up within me, cutting through the shock and anguish. If Nolan wanted a war, he would get one. I would make him regret the day he ever betrayed us. The next few days passed in a haze of feedings, diaper changes, and sporadic bursts of sleep. My thoughts constantly drifted back to Nolan's cruel revelation in the hospital room. I replayed the scene over and over, analyzing every detail. The cold detachment in his eyes, the matter-of-fact tone as he declared his love for another woman. My best friend Juliana came to visit often, helping around the house and providing a sympathetic ear. I found myself obsessively recounting Nolan's betrayal to her, as if speaking the words aloud might miraculously change them. "That bastard! I never trusted him," Juliana declared, her eyes flashing. "Don't waste another second worrying about that snake." I sighed, adjusting the swaddled newborn in my arms. "I just don't understand how he could do this. We were so happy once." Juliana shook her head. "People show their true colors eventually. He never deserved you." I thought back to the early days with Nolan, how he used to surprise me with flowers, how we would stay up all night talking. When had it all gone wrong? "I ignored so many red flags," I said quietly. "The late nights at the office, the locked phone screen. I feel so stupid." "This is not your fault." Juliana squeezed my shoulder. "Nolan chose to betray his vows. Don't let him make you feel guilty, too." Over the next few weeks, I tried to focus on healing both physically and emotionally. But lingering doubts continued to plague me. I needed proof of Nolan's affair, some tangible confirmation that this Cassidy person truly existed. One evening, Juliana arrived on my doorstep, eyes blazing with fury. That asshole thought he could keep his little secret contained at the office. Well, it's all out in the open now. She revealed that she had discreetly investigated at the company where Nolan and I both worked. Rumors of his affair with a younger colleague named Cassidy had spread like wildfire. "It's definitely the same woman he mentioned," I said bitterly. "He wasn't even trying to hide it from people at work." Juliana nodded. "I'm so sorry, Alara, but at least now you know the truth. He doesn't deserve your tears." Hot anger pulsed through me as reality sank in. Nolan had paraded his mistress around, utterly unconcerned about my pain or public humiliation. I pictured his smug face and felt pure loathing wash over me. He had slipped the knife in my back when I was at my most vulnerable. Well, it was time I returned the favor. A week later, I was finally discharged from the hospital with strict instructions to rest and recover. As I settled into my bedroom, a sense of peace washed over me. For the first time since that wretched day, Nolan destroyed our lives. I had just finished nursing the baby when the doorbell rang. Still sore and fatigued, I slowly made my way downstairs. I froze when I opened the front door. Nolan stood on the porch next to a slender blonde woman I could only assume was Cassidy. Before I could react, they brushed past me into the foyer. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, blocking their path. Nolan glanced around impatiently. "I'm here for my things. Cassidy will help me pack up." I gaped at them. Did they think they could just barge in and take over? Cassidy gave me a disparaging look. "We're here to take the baby, too. She deserves a proper home." Rage surged within me. "You must be out of your damn minds if you think I'm letting her go anywhere with you," I spat. Nolan stepped forward menacingly. "I will be a part of my daughter's life, like it or not." "Over my dead body," I snarled. "Get out before I call the cops." Just then I heard the front door swing open again behind me. "I wouldn't unpack just yet if I were you," came Juliana's voice. I turned to see her waving a manila envelope, eyes flashing. Nolan paled at the sight of her. "In fact, I think you'll both be cleaning out your desks at the office instead," she continued. Cassidy let out a scoff. "And who the hell are you?" "Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is that I have enough evidence here of your sordid affair to bury you both." Juliana pulled out printed emails and photographed text conversations documenting their relationship, all time-stamped during my pregnancy. Nolan lunged for the papers, but Juliana yanked them away. "Ah, too late. Copies have already been sent to the head office. Hope you don't mind facing a sexual harassment investigation, Cassidy." Cassidy gasped, glanced frantically at Nolan, then fled for the still-open door. After a final venomous glare, Nolan followed close behind. I turned to Juliana, awestruck. "How did you get all that?" she winked. "I have my sources. No one messes with my best friend." Relief swept over me. Once again, Juliana had proven herself a loyal ally. While Nolan and his mistress reaped the bitter harvest of their lies, I would keep forging ahead. Upstairs, my innocent baby slept soundly, unaware of the darkness that had invaded our lives. Gazing at her sweet face, I knew I would move mountains to make sure she never suffered like I had. Nolan had slipped the knife in my back when I was vulnerable. Now it was my turn to take everything from him. His dignity, his career, his reputation. The only thought sweeter than revenge was the chance to start over, far from his shadow. The next morning, I received an urgent call from Juliana, instructing me to get to the office immediately. Still weak and sore, I reluctantly left my newborn with a neighbor and drove downtown. Juliana met me outside the towering glass building that housed our company's headquarters. "I hope you're ready for a show," she said with a sly grin. Up in the executive wing, we stepped into a posh waiting area outside the president's office. Cassidy was already there, pacing and biting her nails. When she saw me, her eyes flashed with hatred. At that moment, the office door swung open and Nolan stalked out, face pale. He froze when he saw us, fear creeping into his expression. Mr. Harlan, the company president, emerged behind Nolan and beckoned us all inside. "Please, have a seat," Harlan said politely as we filed in. He was known as much for his courtesy as his shrewd intelligence. Cassidy sat ramrod straight, eyes fixed on the floor. Nolan drummed his fingers anxiously on the armrest beside her. Harlan neatly arranged papers on his desk before folding his hands. It seems we have some personnel issues that require immediate attention. He turned to Cassidy first. You are aware that intimate relationships between employees are against company policy? Yes, sir, she answered tersely. And yet clear evidence shows you had an ongoing affair with a married executive, a man whose wife, I might add, you worked closely with during her difficult pregnancy. Cassidy flushed but said nothing. Harlan continued in measured tones. Your actions show a disturbing lack of integrity and professionalism. Effective today, your employment is terminated. Cassidy shot to her feet. You can't do this. My family donated half the artwork in this building. Harlan didn't blink. Your aunt may be a noted philanthropist, but neither she nor your family name will excuse misconduct here. Defeated, Cassidy grabbed her purse and fled the office. Nolan reached out as if to stop her, then seemed to think better of it. Harlan turned his attention next to Nolan. Not only did you violate company rules, you abandoned your family duties. Such poor character does not befit a senior executive. Nolan's face twisted. I've given 15 years to this firm. You can't throw me out over one mistake. It was no mere mistake. You systematically deceived your wife and jeopardized an important project, distracting your team for months. Your presence here is now untenable. Harlan slid an envelope across the desk. Here is the terms of your severance package. I suggest you accept and make a quiet departure. With shaking hands, Nolan took the papers and left. I watched him go with a sense of dark satisfaction. Harlan gave me a kind look. My dear, you were clearly the injured party here. Consider this matter closed on the company's end. I hope you recover fully, both physically and personally. Outside the office, Juliana hugged me tight. I let out a sob I didn't know I'd been holding in, the overwhelming emotions of the past weeks finally crashing over me. It was over. Justice had been swift and sure. Now I could focus on rebuilding a new life with my daughter, a peaceful life, far from the backstabbing duplicity of people like Nolan. When karma came for him, the knife in his back was one he richly deserved. In the weeks following Nolan's termination, I focused on regaining my strength and finding a new normal with my daughter. I took extended medical leave from work, relying on my savings while I figured out next steps. Juliana was a constant support, helping around the house and encouraging me to take it one day at a time. Forget about Nolan. Everything will work out, you'll see, she said during one late-night chat session. But I couldn't forget. Or forgive. Quiet rage still simmered within me over how Nolan deceived me. I replayed every memory, analyzing all the times he lied straight to my face. He had hurt me deeper than anyone ever had, and he deserved to fully reap what he sowed. Late one night, an idea began to take form. If Nolan thought he could simply walk away unscathed, he was dead wrong. With Juliana's help, I would make sure his betrayal followed him like a dark cloud over every aspect of his life. I decided to start with his beloved career reputation. Nolan had always taken pride in being a rising star at the company, ruthless and ambitious. It was time to crash his image and turn his coworkers against him. Juliana and I drafted an anonymous email detailing Nolan's affair with a direct report during my vulnerable pregnancy. We included key dates and events, along with Cassidy's name. From an internet cafe, we sent the message to everyone in their business circle. Soon after, the heated office gossip mill went into overdrive. Nolan's peers and colleagues were appalled at the sordid details. The portrait of a lying snake emerged, destroying any respect he once commanded. Meanwhile, I spoke with a take-no-prisoners divorce lawyer about destroying Nolan financially. We drew up divorce papers asserting adultery as grounds and seeking full custody with a generous side of child support. Serving Nolan the papers at his new apartment was profoundly satisfying. The look of defeat on his face was priceless. You'll regret this, he snarled. But we both knew all the power rested firmly in my hands now. Getting my revenge on the home-wrecking Cassidy required a subtler approach. I unearthed her active social media accounts and anonymously sent screenshots to her college friends of her boasting about seducing a married man. The backlash was swift and severe. Calls for her to be fired from her new waitressing job flooded her online profiles. Old friends and roommates publicly denounced her character. She disappeared from social media entirely less than 24 hours later. While Cassidy retreated into obscurity, Nolan would soon endure the full public humiliation of a court battle dragging his name through the mud. I hoped the legal fees and child support bled him dry. As I rocked my baby to sleep each night, the dark thoughts receded and calm took its place. The storm Nolan brought into our lives had cleared. Soon we would be free of him for good. The memories of the loving man I once knew replaced by the far more accurate image of a spineless, cruel traitor. He was finally getting exactly what he deserved. The day of my first divorce hearing arrived gray and bleak, fittingly mirroring my mood. I dressed in sober black and steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. I strode into the courtroom with my head held high, refusing to show an ounce of weakness. Nolan sat at the defendant's table, looking pale and twitchy. His usual well-groomed appearance was notably absent. As we went through initial motions, Nolan tried repeatedly to catch my eye. I kept my gaze fixed straight ahead, acting as if he weren't even in the room. When the judge questioned Nolan about the affair accusations, he sputtered unconvincingly. It meant nothing, just a stupid mistake. My lawyer presented ironclad evidence of the timeline of his betrayal coinciding with my vulnerable pregnancy. Nolan had no counter-argument. On the custody issues, Nolan became agitated and confrontational. "You can't prove I wouldn't be a fit parent," he burst out. The judge's tone grew stern. "You have not participated in caring for your newborn child. These allegations against your character are troubling." In the end, the judge approved our proposed arrangements for full custody and a substantial monthly child support payment. Nolan had lost completely on all fronts. The burning fury in his eyes spoke volumes. As we left court, Nolan grabbed my arm and forced me to face him. "I won't let you take my daughter away from me," he hissed. I yanked my arm back. "Touch me again and I'll have my lawyer file for a restraining order." Leaving him fuming, I walked away feeling victorious. The law was firmly on my side. Over the next few weeks, Nolan maintained a campaign to salvage his reputation without success. He tried shifting blame, claiming I pushed him away during pregnancy and refused marital affection. But the facts of his prolonged deceit were indisputable. Former colleagues and business contacts continued to ice him out, disgusted by the very public details of his affairs and misconduct. Doors closed swiftly when he came calling for job prospects. Nolan grew increasingly unhinged, ranting on social media about injustice and karma coming for those who wronged him. But his credibility was shot. Few paid him any mind. Meanwhile, I embraced single motherhood with a new optimism. The final divorce decree arrived right before my daughter's first birthday, with all terms in my favor. The new year felt full of promise and possibility. On a whim, I reached out to my former workplace and discovered they had an opening, eager to have me return. The chance to fully rebuild my career after years on the mommy track felt like a hard-won victory. As I regained my financial independence and stability, I marveled at how far I'd come. Just a year ago, my world had come crashing down. Now the future looked bright through eyes unclouded by lies and betrayal. Nolan had gotten the bitter revenge he deserved, and I had reclaimed my life. Over the next year, I fell into a rhythm of balancing work and motherhood. My new role involved less travel, allowing me to better care for my daughter's needs. Having the flexibility to leave early for school pickups and doctor visits made all the difference. Settling into my own place also brought immense relief. The wounds of Nolan's betrayal no longer haunted every corner. This was a home filled with new memories and possibilities. My social life also revived as I reconnected with old friends. Juliana remained a stalwart support, helping wrangle my rambunctious toddler during girls' nights out. Her companionship brought much-needed fun and laughter into my days. Meanwhile, Nolan's circumstances continued to crumble. With his reputation in tatters, he could only find spotty contract work. He burned through his remaining savings trying to keep up appearances and pay owed debts. I heard through the grapevine that he was hitting the bottle pretty hard too, often drunk and belligerent in public. It seemed anyone still willing to associate with him was another cheating lowlife or enabler. On the rare occasions our paths crossed, Nolan's bloodshot eyes and disheveled appearance only emphasized how far he'd fallen. He was a shell of the polished, ruthless corporate climber I'd once known. "We could have had it all," he slurred to me on one awkward chance encounter outside my office building. "It wasn't meant to turn out like this." I sidestepped him with a shrug. Should have thought of that sooner. I had long since stopped caring about anything he had to say. After 2 years of sporadic calls and texts full of bitter recriminations, Nolan's contact gradually faded to nothing. The biggest surprise was realizing I didn't miss him in the slightest. I was finally free, fully healed from wounds that had once cut so deep. My daughter remained oblivious to her father's dysfunctional spiral into obscurity. To her, family meant me, Grandma, and Aunt Juliana. She was thriving in preschool and had playdates most weekends with classmates. I made sure her life was filled with love and joy. As for Cassidy, the homewrecker who helped implode my marriage, karma had left its mark on her, too. Crippled by the scandal and social media backlash, she had changed her name and left the state. Wherever she ended up, I hope guilt haunts her over what she helped destroy. Maybe Nolan can give her late-night calls instead. On the eve of my daughter's 4th birthday, I hosted a princess tea party with 10 giggling little girls crowding my living room. As I snapped photos and filled teacups, my heart swelled with love and pride. The painful past felt like a distant lifetime ago. Now my days were rich with playfulness and possibility, chasing around a bright-eyed daughter who was the center of my world. I had traveled through the darkness and come out wiser, stronger, renewed in body and spirit. The future awaited, more radiant than ever. Time marched steadily onward, each new day further distance between my present happiness and the pain of the past. My daughter thrived in elementary school, smart and social. She excelled in reading and loved showing off new dance moves she learned in hip-hop class. Her eyes, so like her father's, now sparkled with joy he had long forfeited the right to witness. At my company, years of consistently superb work paid off with a promotion to a director-level position. I now led a team of bright up-and-comers helping set strategy for our division. It felt surreal to be so highly valued when just a few years prior I'd wondered if my career would fully recover post-divorce. On evenings when my schedule allowed, Juliana and I would meet up for dinner and dissect dating app horror stories. We made an unlikely pair, her flashy and fiery, me understated and dry-humored. But our sisterly bond ran deep. "You really showed that cheating scumbag Nolan what's what," Juliana remarked one night as we lingered over tiramisu. Not every woman could turn heartbreak into such epic revenge. I smiled wryly. Don't think I didn't imagine slipping arsenic in his wine a few times. But in the end, living well turned out to be the best revenge. One spring morning I spotted a familiar name in the newspaper and my heartbeat quickened reflexively before I could stop it. There was Nolan, looking worn and shabby as he exited a courthouse trying unsuccessfully to dodge photographers. The accompanying article chronicled his guilty plea to drunk driving charges after ramming his car into a tree. His license suspended, career in tatters. The shell of the man I once loved now seemed utterly broken. For the first time in ages, an unexpected pang of sympathy pierced my heart. Whatever latent feelings stirred were quickly extinguished when Nolan's name surfaced again the following week. Arrested on assault charges after a bar fight, his spiral into reckless self-destruction seemed complete. I shook my head, sadly but resolutely. Some people could not be saved from themselves. I had to remain focused on protecting the family we had built, me and our daughter. She was the only part of him worth cherishing. As I helped my little girl practice newly learned multiplication tables that evening, I marveled at how innocence persists even when surrounded by the fallen world. Her childhood was so different from my own, devoid of yelling, mind games, and violence. By some miracle I had overcome my beginnings and broken the cycle. My daughter would grow up trusting in steadfast love, not tiptoeing around landmines. I realized then that I bore no lingering resentments over the pain and deception in my past. Survival and renewal had given me the courage to fully embrace life's complexities. On the other side awaited joy and light, if you just kept moving forward. Nolan's wasted potential was not my concern. His choices led him down a destructive road long before our paths fatefully intertwined. I saw that now with clarity. My task was to raise my daughter with wisdom and compassion, equipping her for whatever lay ahead. As for me, the possibilities of the future beckoned brightly once more. Scars healed and lessons learned, I stepped forward to greet them.
Our reservation for 7 people is accurate, and I kindly request a separate seat for a lady not included in the count. This request, typical of Elizabeth, my husband's mother, echoes her penchant for making loud demands and teasing me. However, today marks a turning point as I've resolved to expose a secret she's been keeping during our family gathering. I'm Natalie, a 28-year-old chef who graduated successfully from culinary school. I work at a highly rated Western restaurant in the city where I met George, a friendly customer who later became my husband. George inherited a historic electronics store, a beloved establishment in the community for 3 generations. Last year, George's father passed away, and he assumed the role of the 3rd-generation owner. My upbringing was in a household filled with culinary professionals, my father, mother, and even my brother. Growing up in such an environment exposed me to various cooking techniques and knowledge from a young age. Thanks to this upbringing and my innate talent, I graduated at the top of my class from culinary school. Despite my usual reserved demeanor, I've always been confident in my culinary skills. However, after marrying George, that confidence began to waver due to our close living arrangement with Elizabeth, which started shortly after our marriage. George's decision to live with his parents, a common practice in his family, came as a surprise. I had hoped to enjoy the early days of marriage just the 2 of us, but George's living arrangement was not disclosed earlier. Regretting it now wouldn't change anything. Living with Elizabeth turned out better than expected initially. She was kind, buying me treats from my favorite bakery, and even took on most of the household chores. However, there was one concern: the seasoning in her meals. Each dish was excessively salty, and while I initially attributed it to her northern origins, it seemed different from the preferences of others from the same region. I have a colleague from the north who prefers a lighter salt taste, making Elizabeth's dishes stand out. For instance, her stew, with vibrant ingredients, was overshadowed by an intense sauce, making it feel like directly putting concentrated sauce in my mouth. Doubts about whether this was the standard taste lingered, and my husband's comment about adjusting the taste to be lighter than usual only intensified my inner questioning. These days, consistently consuming Elizabeth's cooking seemed to have dulled my taste buds, creating a sense of dissatisfaction, even when preparing dishes at work. Doubts about my own sense of taste crept in, but fortunately, the head chef conducted the final taste checks, ensuring no major issues. Nevertheless, the heavy seasoning in Elizabeth's daily meals became a serious concern for me. To cope with this, I devised a plan. One solution was to wake up earlier than Elizabeth and prepare my own breakfast. While this noon routine prevented a decline in my work performance, it unintentionally led to a frosty attitude from Elizabeth. When I greeted her in the morning, she began to ignore my words and pass by. One evening, when I sought her opinion on a dish I had put a lot of effort into, she responded with criticism, questioning if I had seasoned it properly. Despite my explanation, she insisted it was bland, adding a significant amount of sauce to the dish. I couldn't help but feel that there might be some reason or background to her change in attitude. My husband has 2 older sisters, both of whom have established families. They welcomed me warmly from the beginning of our marriage and offered support if I ever had trouble with their mother. However, Emily, one of the sisters, had a different experience. As I helped with food preparation for her daughter's grand birthday celebration, the dining table was filled with a variety of distinctively unique and appetizing dishes. During the party, Emily's daughter expressed dislike for the stew, commenting on the heavy seasoning. When Emily suggested learning cooking tips from me, Elizabeth angrily exclaimed and left the scene, leaving me puzzled about the underlying issues in her behavior. I had some regrets about offering to help with the cooking from the beginning. The party ended abruptly amid a sour mood. While I believe Emily might have meant her words lightly, it was clear that Elizabeth had put love and effort into her dishes as well. It felt unjust for our heartfelt efforts to be belittled with a mere comment. That night, I lacked the courage to express my apologies to Elizabeth. From the next day onward, life became increasingly tough. Elizabeth would recklessly season the meals I carefully prepared, and on the worst days, she would even throw them away midway through eating. Seeking support from my husband in these trying times, I turned to him for help. However, his response was less than supportive, suggesting that maybe I had antagonized her and needed to listen more. As days passed, the strain in our marital relationship deepened. My husband started coming home late, claiming it was due to work, and even began missing family events. We were only married for half a year, so the idea of divorce felt premature. However, another hurdle emerged when Elizabeth tripped on our stairs and severely injured her leg. Despite Emily's kind offer to help with her care, Elizabeth insisted that, as the wife of the house, it was only natural for me to take care of her. This declaration changed my daily life dramatically, and attending to her needs became a relentless routine, even during work hours. Eventually, my colleagues' patience wore thin, leading me to resign from my job. When Elizabeth learned about my resignation, she seemed gleeful. From then on, my days were consumed with meeting Elizabeth's spontaneous demands at all hours, leaving my mind and body worn down. My husband's reduced presence at home added to my distress, and I began to doubt his reasons for working late. Pondering our next steps, I decided it was time to teach both Elizabeth and my husband a lesson. A few days later, during breakfast, I brought up the idea of divorce, shocking both of them. They questioned the sudden decision, expressing surprise and disbelief. My husband even suggested that my actions could tarnish our family's reputation. In response, I explained my dissatisfaction with the household environment and my determination for change. Confronted with my newfound resolve, they were taken aback. My husband apologized, expressing a willingness to be more attentive to our home life. He even suggested a break, understanding if I wanted to go to my parents for a change of pace. However, he requested that I still help Elizabeth due to her leg injury. Despite feeling disoriented, I sensed a hint of resentment in his words. I asked him to reflect on the situation, expressing my hope for positive changes if we continue to live together. I took a deep breath and calmly replied, "I'll think about it." At that moment, a smug smile appeared on their faces, revealing the evident blood ties between them. For the next few days, the atmosphere at home shifted. My husband began returning home earlier from work, but this improvement was short-lived. He soon started coming home late again, and Elizabeth's behavior reverted to its previous coldness. Despite her leg injury showing no signs of improvement, Elizabeth frequently went out without explanation. As I questioned her actions, I soon discovered a shocking truth. One day, my cell phone rang incessantly, with both my husband and Elizabeth expressing anger about me leaving Elizabeth alone. I sensed they wouldn't understand my perspective, and I revealed that I was at my parents' house. Days later, enjoying a peaceful time at my parents' house, I received an unexpected message from the one person I least wanted to be involved with, Elizabeth. The message contained an apology for her past actions and an invitation to her upcoming birthday party. Though reluctant, considering it as a bit of a luxury treat, I decided to attend. The venue for the party was an upscale restaurant near the station, renowned for a new chef trained in France. Upon arriving, I saw George and Elizabeth waiting with smug expressions. The attendees included Emily, her husband, and their children, making it a small gathering of 8 people. As we entered the restaurant, I confirmed my reservation for 7 people. However, Elizabeth requested a separate seat for me, surprising everyone. The waiter guided me to a slightly hidden seat, and as the evening progressed, the anticipated meat dish raised expectations. While delicious-smelling dishes were constantly brought to Emily's table, George and Elizabeth received none. Elizabeth's loud complaint about the delay in their food drew the attention of nearby customers, leaving me in a state of surprise and anticipation for the unfolding events of the night. I deeply apologize. The chef is preparing something special for the 2 of you, so it's taking a little extra time. Please wait for just a bit longer. Despite her annoyance, Elizabeth's face showed a hint of satisfaction, knowing they were getting special treatment. Soon after, footsteps could be heard coming from the kitchen, and their expressions froze in surprise. It was me, dressed in a chef's hat and apron. "What, Natalie? Why are you dressed like that? Is this your surprise?" While Emily and her husband enjoyed my appearance, George and Elizabeth were taken aback. I gently smiled and set the specially arranged dishes before them. "I've prepared a special menu just for the two of you." At the center of Elizabeth's plate, a beautiful black lump was garnished with a rich sauce. I'd accentuated this using a special sauce. "I'll add a little more topping to this sauce." Pouring more sauce on the dish, I felt satisfied seeing Elizabeth's surprised face. "And here's a special dish for you, sir." On George's plate, various delicacies were beautifully arranged, each shining brightly. "Please try it with this special sauce." Placing an elegant sauce bottle on the table, I watched the service. Emily's daughter laughed cheerfully, and they both looked a bit surprised yet intrigued. However, their expressions soon turned to anger. "This is unbelievable. I've never seen such inappropriate service. Call the manager." George exclaimed. I calmly replied, "I'm the person in charge here. Is there a problem?" Elizabeth joined in. "Are you the one allowing such disrespectful service? This is unforgivable. We're going to exercise our rights as customers and sue you." I continued, "Feel free. But we're also considering legal action for the disruption you've caused. How dare you?" It turned out that they often visited this restaurant and were always demanding. The staff already saw them as problematic customers, and now, with my brother Peter managing the restaurant, they were being treated impartially. Peter, Elizabeth, and George were utterly stunned upon realizing that the person in charge was my brother. In reality, this popular restaurant was a product of Peter's diligent management and hard work. They had not been informed of this fact before. Peter had previously undergone advanced training in France and couldn't attend our wedding. Although he had sent a generous gift, he had never spoken with Elizabeth or George. However, he remembered their faces from family pictures. "We didn't know any of this. Could you explain?" Emily asked, cheerful but with a slight shadow in her eyes. "Actually, we came here to dine with some shopkeepers from the town's marketplace. It's trendy these days to have dinner in such modern restaurants." At that moment, a staff member approached politely. "During your last visit, you left behind an item. Please allow me to return it." Handing over a shimmering earring, Emily added, "You often dine here with men wearing earrings. Isn't that a bit risky?" George's face momentarily froze in surprise at Emily's question. How did I come to know of this secret? A few weeks ago, I harbored suspicions and decided to hire a detective to investigate. The result was a collection of photos depicting George enjoying dinners with another woman at this restaurant, and even moments where they entered a hotel together. To be honest, I felt more relieved than betrayed. Marrying him was a mistake. I'm planning to file for divorce. Just be prepared. This was the first time George had openly spoken about divorce. But for me, it was an anticipated moment. Just don't forget to pay the alimony. Don't worry. I recently secured a big business deal, and financially, I'm pretty well off now. I'll gladly pay all of the alimony in full. Hearing that gave me peace of mind. Now about you, Elizabeth. Until now, she had been wide-eyed at the unfolding conversation, known by the staff as a regular at this upscale restaurant. What do you want from me? Since my husband passed away, I don't think anyone has the right to complain about my behavior. However, I had also had a detective thoroughly investigate her secrets. It turned out she had been in a secret relationship for 5 years, even though her husband had passed away just a year ago. What are you talking about? Emily and her siblings, hearing this for the first time, stared at their mother in shocked anger. This revelation was unbearable for them, as they deeply cherished their father. Although I, too, was surprised by the investigation's outcome. When I asked the detective why he knew so much about Elizabeth, it turned out that their father had once hired the same detective agency. You deceived him for so long, even while he was still alive, and George, even while with Natalie, you were seen in other women. How could you? In Emily and her siblings' eyes, deep anger and disappointment shaped the tense atmosphere at our table, catching the attention of other diners who started glancing our way. We promised to resolve this matter at home and called it a night for the dinner. As I left, I high-fived the restaurant staff and Peter, expressing my gratitude. A few days later, under the stern gaze of Emily and her siblings, George and I proceeded with the formal divorce process. Now I'm free. I won't regret anything, no matter what happens, he stated confidently. I never expected this outcome, even after I told you about my bad leg. I never imagined being treated this way. Ah, watch your step. She recoiled in surprise. In truth, her leg had already healed, yet she had been pretending to be in pain to maintain a superior attitude towards me. Her behavior once again left me in shock. From now on, both she and my husband will be strangers. Although our marriage ended within a short span of a year, I had no regrets whatsoever. When I checked my bank account, I was shocked to see that the alimony from both my husband and his mistress had been deposited simultaneously. It seemed like my husband covered her share as well. Knowing this fact, I could finally view them as no longer being a part of my life. Subsequently, there were some interesting developments regarding my husband and his mistress's relationship. He had gone into debt to pay the hefty alimony, but shortly after our divorce was finalized, she dumped him quite easily. From the information I received from Emily, it was revealed that the woman is infamous in the area for targeting married men. After the episode at the restaurant, we were informed by Peter that the regular patrons were also fed up with George and Elizabeth's antics, and they were elated by our surprise. From then on, the restaurant strictly prohibited those two from entering. Moreover, their dishonest attitudes quickly became known throughout the community. A major contract that my husband had been boasting about was eventually canceled, and his electronics store, sustained by the deep trust of the local community, now faced a challenging future. Elizabeth's subsequent life became quite difficult. Suddenly abandoned by her longtime lover, further medical tests revealed that her unhealthy lifestyle was affecting her health. Her health condition was significantly tied to her own way of living, which wasn't deserving of any sympathy. On the other hand, I was fortunate enough to return to the Western-style restaurant where I used to work. Even though they knew about my past, the staff and management warmly welcomed me back. The spaghetti lady, Emily, and her family still came to this restaurant often, and their presence was a significant support for me. They had decided to completely sever ties with George and Elizabeth. The anger towards their actions, especially after the passing of their father and the revelation of the truth, left a deep wound in their hearts, which seemed unlikely to heal. The joy of cooking holds a significant place in my life. Feeling this happiness is the very moment I cherish the most, and when I feel truly blessed. Emily. When I informed my mother-in-law that I intended to return to my hometown for childbirth, her response was unequivocal. By all means, go back. I don't want to see your face. Those words brought me immense joy, as I had eagerly awaited them. You won't have to see me anymore, rest assured. Emily. I'm Emily, on the verge of turning 28. My mother passed away from an illness when I was just 2 years old. With my father, a busy man managing a century-old clothing company, I was primarily raised by my grandmother. Living under my father's strict guidance, I followed his instructions obediently. This regimented lifestyle left no room for romantic pursuits, and I had resigned myself to the belief that it was my destiny. After completing college, I briefly worked as my father's secretary in his company. However, he found it challenging to work together and compelled me to resign. Despite my friends landing jobs, dating, and getting married, my father insisted that I didn't need to work. So, I wanted to work too. I confided in my father one night. Emily's father, Dad, can I work? No. He dismissed the idea without seeking any explanation. Emily, why not? Because you don't need to work. But I also need to step out into society and gain more experience. Emily, don't talk back. I'm not talking back. I'm not saying anything wrong. You should just stay at home, Emily. If you say that, I'll leave home. I'll leave home and go to work from there. Emily, stop it. No, I am an adult. I won't always do as you say. Distraught, I left the room, and even in the solitude of my own space, I cried for an extended period. Later, I reached out to my college friend Lisa. Can I come to your house now? Sure, but what's wrong? And can you go out at this time? I can't right now, but I'll figure it out. Can I stay at your place for a while? Emily. Quietly, I packed my belongings and left home to seek refuge at Lisa's luxurious condominium. I discreetly left a note on my desk, explaining my temporary absence to my father. Upon arrival at Lisa's place, she welcomed me with my favorite coffee. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa? What's going on, Emily? I poured out the details of my argument with my father and my decision to leave home. Lisa, that's awful, Emily. You've had no freedom at all. Her empathetic words stirred fresh tears. Until now, I did everything my father said, thinking it was normal. But suddenly, I've started craving my own freedom. Lisa, that's completely normal. It's strange that your father doesn't allow you to work. I'd like to meet many people and have a good time too. Emily, so does your dad know you're here? I left a note saying I was going to a friend's place, but he doesn't know any of my friends. He might be frantically searching for you right now. Maybe. Lisa, it's late now. Shall we go to bed? Yeah, I'm really tired. Lisa arranged a separate room for me to sleep in. The next day, when Lisa left for work, I found about 10 missed calls from my dad on my phone. Feeling sorry for him, I sent an email to reassure him not to worry. In the evening, after Lisa finished work, she called me. I'm going out for a drink. Why did you join us? Emily. Having little experience with social drinking, I was excited about going out. When I arrived at the location Lisa mentioned, I found her waiting with 2 men. Lisa. Apologies for the wait. So, who are these gentlemen? Lisa gestured toward the shorter man and said, This is my boyfriend. And the tall guy over there is single and ready to mingle. The tall man, Max. Nice to meet you. I'm Max. Emily. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Lisa. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Emily. That marked the beginning of our relationship. Max worked at a small company in the apparel industry. Initially, I wondered if it resembled my father's company, but I swiftly dismissed the thought. Max's family dynamic was the opposite of mine, with only his mother present. However, he didn't delve into the details, and I refrained from prying. One day, Max expressed, I'd like to meet your father, Emily. While I had been corresponding with my father through email since leaving home, I had no immediate plans to return, so meeting him was not on my agenda. I'll consider it, but I'd love to meet your mom, Max. Sure, even today is fine if you want. Really? Today works. I should get a gift then. Yeah, my mom loves that kind of thing. Later, I discovered my mother-in-law not only loved such gifts, but also grew quite irritable if I failed to bring them. En route to Max's house, I picked up a cake at a bakery. Upon reaching Max's place, his mother was already waiting at the front door. Mother-in-law. When I inquired from Max why his mother was there, he mentioned sending her a message from the bakery. Emily. My mother-in-law fixed her gaze on me and asked, And your name is? Mother-in-law. Ah, I'm Emily. Nice to meet you. Mother-in-law. What do you do for a living? Emily. I'm currently unemployed, but I plan to work soon. Mother-in-law. Oh, so you're just idling about. How nice. It must be to be a rich young lady. I'm not wealthy. That's why I want to work. Mother-in-law. You don't need to talk back. What do your parents do? Emily. My mother passed away when I was young. My father works at a company. Mother-in-law. Him. Max. How long are you two going to chat out here? Let's head inside. Mother-in-law. Right. By the way, Max, did she bring anything? Surely she didn't come empty-handed. In a rush, I handed my mother-in-law the paper bag containing the cake. Emily. It's not much, but She grabbed the bag almost forcefully from my hand, peering inside with a critical eye. I didn't really need anything, but I suppose I'll take it. In the brief minutes spent conversing with my mother-in-law, I grew to resent her deeply. I felt sorry for anyone tethered to such a person as a mother-in-law. As we entered the living room, my mother-in-law bombarded me with questions to which I offered only bland responses. Nevertheless, she persisted in her interrogation, almost as if I were a criminal suspect. Exhausted by the relentless barrage of one-sided questions, I seized the first opportunity to speak to Max. Emily. Max, I think I should be heading home soon. At that, my mother-in-law's face flushed with anger. Mother-in-law. Do you truly despise being with me that much? Your responses to my inquiries have been half-hearted all along. Max. Mom, please calm down. Mother-in-law. Max, why did you bring such a rude woman here? Surely there are better choices out there. Emily. I retorted sharply. What exactly about me is rude? If there's something I should improve, then kindly enlighten me. My response seemed to only stoke my mother-in-law's ire. Mother-in-law. You're quite cheeky, aren't you? All I asked is that you answer my questions. Emily. I've been answering everything you've asked. Mother-in-law. You dislike me, don't you? I can see it on your face. Emily. I wanted to say yes, but I couldn't bring myself to. I'm just tired and would like to go home. Mother-in-law. Well, aren't you audacious? I wonder what kind of upbringing your parents gave you. They mustn't have been good parents. I would love to see what they look like. Hearing her disparage my parents, I was overcome with sadness and began to cry. Mother-in-law. Now you're crying for sympathy. If you're so eager to leave, then go. It'll be a breath of fresh air. Also, I'll feed this cake you brought to my dog Charlie, but Charlie is quite particular, so he might not touch such a cheap cake. Laughing, she pointed at the cake I had bought. Mother-in-law. Enough, Mom. Max. Max, you really don't know how to choose a partner. Max scowled at his mother's words and retorted, Why must you always argue? Can't you act your age for once? His response seemed to drain his mother of energy instantly. Max. All I want is a good wife for you, Max. Max. I understand. But I'm an adult too, you know? I'm not a child anymore. Emily. I affirmed, and I can handle my own affairs. Upon hearing Max's words, his mother's eyes filled with tears, and she left the room with a despondent expression. I decided to depart as well, but Max followed me and offered an apology. Max. Emily, I'm sorry for my mother's harsh words. She must be feeling threatened, thinking she's losing me to you. I'll speak to her about this, okay? Please don't let it deter you from returning. Emily. His mother's comments about my parents hurt deeply, Max. I'm not sure I want to see her again. As I uttered those words, a wave of sadness washed over me, and I collapsed into Max's arms, tears streaming down my face. Max held me close, and after a while, he suggested, How about we go somewhere now? Barely nodding, I left the house with Max. Since Max didn't have a car, we took the train and disembarked at a station near the beach. We sat on a bench by the sandy shore, gazing out at the sea for a long while. 2 months passed since then, and I discovered that I was pregnant. When I broached the subject with Max, he proposed. Max, let's get married. We don't need a lavish ceremony, but let's make it official. We can reside at my house, all right? I don't earn much at my job, so renting an apartment is out of the question. I'll ensure my mother refrains from making unwarranted remarks to you, Emily. While living with his mother wasn't ideal, there seemed to be no other option. Emily. Okay, I'll do my best to get along with your mother. And so, I found myself moving into my mother-in-law's house because of our impending marriage. I returned home to inform my father about it. His face lit up upon seeing me. Emily's father. It's wonderful to see you looking well. I know we've been in touch, but it's been a while since we last met. What's the matter, Dad? I have something important to share. His demeanor shifted immediately. I recounted my encounter with Max, my pregnancy, and our intention to marry. My father listened silently. When I finished, he simply said, "Well, congratulations. I'm eager to meet my grandchild." His smile seemed forced. "Emily." "Dad, thank you. I'm sorry for causing you sorrow as your daughter." I sat as tears flowed freely down my cheeks. My father too shed tears. I had anticipated anger, but his gentle words wounded me even more. I ended up residing with my mother-in-law due to our impending marriage. Lisa, who had been supporting me since I left home, offered her words. "Lisa, you better show me your cute baby's face soon." Emily, "Of course, and you should tie the knot soon too." Lisa, "I'm eager to walk down the aisle, but he's dragging his feet. But I believe things will fall into place. Let's dine out together again." I initially scheduled the move for Sunday, but my mother-in-law deemed it an unlucky day, so I rescheduled it for Saturday. The relocation went smoothly on Saturday morning. While the movers were busy, my mother-in-law stood by, watching them. Despite repeated warnings from the movers to step back for safety, she remained obstinate. Once the move concluded, my mother-in-law beckoned me over and said, "You didn't settle the payment, did you?" Emily, "I didn't catch that." Mother-in-law, She pretended not to understand and walked away, then handed something to the movers' leaders. Understanding dawned on me, but when she returned, she said, "Emily dear, it seemed like you were hesitant, so I paid on your behalf. Of course, you'll reimburse me later." Mother-in-law. She then cited an exorbitant sum. It far exceeded the norm, so I questioned, "You paid that much?" Emily. "Goodness, it was excessive." Mother-in-law. "It's not about the amount, but perhaps it was a tad too generous. It's the sentiment that matters in such situations. Stinginess invites curses." I'm not being stingy. I refrained from further discussion, aware it would lead to another clash. My mother-in-law wore an expression that said, "I'm always right." That's when Max intervened and asked my mother-in-law, "Mom, what's going on? What'd you say to Emily?" Mother-in-law. "Just a trivial matter," she replied curtly before walking away. "Max, are you all right? I warned her not to hassle you." Emily. "Thank you." Preferring not to disclose the near altercation with my mother-in-law to Max, I fear he might mention it to her, exacerbating her hostility toward me. Following the move, my mother-in-law scarcely interacted with me, evidently avoiding me. There were weeks when she wouldn't speak to me at all, and those were peaceful days. One day, Max brought home some work documents in an envelope bearing the company name, Star Textiles Incorporated, which startled me. It was a name I'd often heard while working at my father's company. They were one of our subcontractors. Max. "Yeah, why do you ask?" Emily. "Just curious. I realized I know very little about your company." I refrained from disclosing that his company was a subcontractor for my father's, sensing it better left unsaid. Max. "Well, we're merely a small subcontractor. If our parent company decides to sever ties, we go under instantly, and all employees would lose their jobs." Max chuckled with a touch of sadness. About a month later, Max began returning home late from work and seemed despondent, prompting my inquiry. Emily. "You've been working late lately. Is everything all right? You seem different." He admitted, "The company is in trouble." Emily. "Like bankruptcy?" Max. Max nodded. "Our parent company suddenly slashed our orders by half. Now our boss is pleading with them daily to maintain the status quo. We're also scouting for new clients. But if neither pans out, bankruptcy is inevitable." As Max recounted the situation, I considered appealing to my father to assist Max's company. However, my father adhered strictly to business principles and wouldn't extend help based on personal sentiments. Additionally, the number of business partners seemed to have dwindled significantly. I divulged to Max that my father's company was the parent company of Star Textiles. Max was initially surprised, but then implored me earnestly. "Max, Emily, please implore your father not to cut ties with us." Emily. "I'm sorry, Max. My father is business-minded, Personal matters won't sway him. Max, could you try, Emily? Emily, it won't change anything. As I spoke, Max sank to his knees before me. Max, please, I beg you. Emily, stop, Max. Don't do this. I'll speak to my father, but I doubt it'll make a difference. As Max raised his head, tears of relief streaked his face. That evening, I called my father and relayed Max's desperate plea. Emily, so the company Max works for is Star Textiles. I suppose I must assist them. I was taken aback. I had anticipated my father, with his stringent business ethos, to refuse outright. Emily's father. I have two conditions. First, we'll maintain business with Star Textiles as usual, but I want Max to join our company. Second, you and Max will move in with me. Do you agree? Emily. So, you're suggesting Max transfers to your company? Emily's father. I'll discuss it with him. But why the need for both of you to move in with me? Emily. All right, but why reduce dealings with Star Textiles initially? Emily's father. A new company presented an enticing offer, prompting us to consider them. However, upon investigation, we discovered their history of reneging on promises, leading us to reconsider. Hence, even without my intervention, Star Textiles would have been unaffected. Emily. Perhaps. My father chuckled, and I couldn't help but join in. After hanging up, I promptly conveyed my father's conditions to Max. While relieved that Star Textiles was out of danger, Max seemed apprehensive about transitioning to my father's company. Max, it's difficult for me to consider joining your father's company, Emily. I've invested a lot at Star Textiles and have good colleagues there. Emily, I'll relay your sentiments to my father. I dialed my father once more, relaying Max's concerns. To which my father responded. Emily's father. He did say that, huh? He's a reliable, honorable man. Understood. He can continue excelling at Star Textiles. But my stance on you two moving into my house remains unchanged. Emily. Understood. Post-call, Max was elated upon hearing my father's decision. Max. I told Max, just remember, don't let your mother know about my father's company. If she finds out, she'll start nagging again. Max. Got it. Several weeks later, I made the decision to return home for the birth of our child. Despite it being just my father and elderly grandmother at home, it felt preferable to being under the care of my mother-in-law. Waiting until my mother-in-law was sipping her afternoon tea in the living room, I approached her. Emily, mother-in-law, regarding my childbirth, I've decided to return home. It's just my dad and my lively grandmother. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law cast me a venomous look and retorted, by all means, go back. I don't want to see your face. Unfazed, I responded calmly. Emily, you won't have to see me anymore, so rest assured. Mother-in-law. What? Emily. I mean, I won't be returning here anymore, and soon Max will be relocating to my parents' house. Mother-in-law. What nonsense. Max is too occupied with work to move. Emily. It's sorted now. Just then, Max entered and informed his mother, Mom, things are looking up at my workplace. Emily played a key role. Mother-in-law. What are you talking about? Emily's dad owns the parent company of my company. Max. At this revelation, my mother-in-law's voice rose as she fixed her gaze on me before stating, Emily, I've been terribly rude to you until now. Deeply apologetic, she bowed. Mother-in-law. I had no idea you were the daughter of the parent company's owner. May I request a favor? I'd like to reside together in your parents' house. Max. Mom, no, you should stay here. Emily. I'm not keen on living with you, mother-in-law. I'd rather not be reminded of our past encounters. Please understand. With tears in her eyes, my mother-in-law pleaded. Mother-in-law, I know it seems harsh, but I can't bear to be apart from Max. Please. Max. No, I can't agree to that. Emily, please stop. Your past conduct has led to this situation, mother-in-law. I addressed my tearful mother-in-law, who remained kneeling. Emily, you brought this upon yourself. 6 months later, Max, our newborn daughter Kay, and I paid a visit to my mother-in-law's house. However, it was eerily quiet, devoid of any human presence. Max. Calling out to his mother, Max received no response. Max, did you mention our visit? Max. No, I thought it would be a surprise. I wonder where she is. Suddenly, my mother-in-law emerged from the bathroom, looking severely frail. She remained impassive upon seeing us. The kitchen was strewn with empty instant noodle packets, and unwashed dishes littered the sink. Max. Mom, are you all right? My mother-in-law glanced at Max, but remained silent. Max. Mother-in-law, we brought your favorite cake. As I offered the cake, my mother-in-law seized it and began devouring it without a word. Echoing my earlier sentiment, I repeated. Emily. You brought this upon yourself, mother-in-law. I'm Emily, and Jake, who is 2 years my senior, is a man of science, living out his childhood dream with a fulfilling research job. Despite his busy schedule, he seems content. Our 3-year-old son, Mike, shares Jake's love for observation and experimentation, currently fixated on the goldfish he snagged at the fall festival. Meanwhile, our 1-year-old daughter, Sarah, is a delightful eater with her adorable chubby white cheeks, bringing comfort and joy to our household. Life is generally good for our ordinary family, except for one recurring concern: dinner. Just as I was trying to soothe my crying daughter and finish preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. Without hesitation, my mother-in-law walked in, a frequent visitor around this time, enough for Mike to hardly glance away from the TV. My goodness, fried food again, she exclaimed, expressing concern about its impact on Jake's stomach and the grandkids. Mike, however, loves it. My mother-in-law swiftly took charge, offering a creamy vegetable stew and minestrone, enough to last for at least 3 days. As she set the table, my spirits sank at the sight of the mostly carrot and cabbage-filled stew. Interrupting my thoughts, she insisted I pack up the food she brought. Despite its lack of appeal, wasting food was not an option. This routine, familiar since her last unexpected visit, where she swapped my clam chowder for her fried chicken, concluded with her leaving without acknowledging her grandchildren. After she left, my son softly remarked, "Grandma took my fried chicken again." My heart ached at his sad face, but I assured him there was a little meat left. As I heated up the oil, I felt relieved seeing my son's joyful reaction to the promise of more food. Yet beneath the surface, my dissatisfaction lingered. My mother-in-law's intrusion had escalated since my marriage, peaking over the last year. Each week, unannounced during dinner prep, she would criticize my cooking and parenting, leaving her cream stew behind. In the past 6 months, she started taking our food home, undermining our meals. As I juggled baby food and distracted the kids, the tough task of cooking continued. My family's happiness kept me going, but my fried chicken, braised pork, mapo tofu, and hamburgers, all of it, ended up in her hands. I inherited a love for cooking from my restaurant-running family, particularly my dad, who taught me the art. Confident in my culinary skills, I firmly believe that my cooking surpasses my mother-in-law's overly sweet cream stew. However, since Mike, our son, entered the picture, I've found it challenging to assert myself against his grandmother. When Jake, my husband, returns home after the kids have gone to sleep, he grimaces at dinner. With only Mike's share of fried chicken remaining, I serve Jake a generous portion of the cream stew, resigned to the fact that it's what my mother-in-law brings over. Frustrated by having my skills undermined, I express my discontent to Jake, urging him to tell his mother if he doesn't like it. Jake, as non-committal as ever, pokes at the stew, avoiding confrontation with his mother. Despite her intrusion during Sarah's nap time and taking away Mike's favorite foods, Jake rationalizes it by mentioning her loneliness since his father's passing 2 years ago. I sigh deeply, realizing Jake tends to avoid confrontation when his mother is involved. The only relief is that she hasn't suggested moving in yet. Tired of the routine, my mother-in-law surprises me with a different proposition during one of her dinner visits. She announces that everyone will gather at our place for Christmas this year, a departure from the usual family reunions at her brother-in-law's or her childhood home. Responding with little enthusiasm, I wonder how she plans to host the gathering. She frowns at my apparent lack of understanding and declares that I'll be helping too, assigning me tasks for the 24th. Despite my quick objections, she dismisses my concerns, suggesting I use a baby carrier for Sarah. Not only am I expected to clean up, but I'm also entrusted with preparing the full-course Christmas meal, with a strict warning against repackaging store-bought food or serving anything that tastes bad. Stunned by the audacity of her decision, I try to object, but my mother-in-law, satisfied with her directives, leaves abruptly. When I share the news with Jake that night, he is as bewildered as I am. We contemplate her plans to host a Christmas party, inviting relatives from both his dad's and her sister's families. Frustrated, I finally lose my temper, expressing my feelings of always being pushed around. Jake, realizing the severity of the situation, goes silent, and with a resigned sigh, agrees to handle the cleaning and entertaining of relatives. I'm relieved to hear Jake's proposal. It provides some direction. However, he adds a request. Can you still cook the full-course Christmas meal? Jake gazes at the meatloaf his mother-in-law left for us, making it hard to refuse. After some hesitation, I reluctantly agree. Just for this year, let's keep Mom's reputation intact. Plus, everyone in the family loves your cooking, he pleads. Fine, just for this year. Thanks, man. I can't wait for Emily's Christmas feast, he says cheerfully. I brace myself, knowing it's just for this time, and agree to prepare a full-course Christmas meal. When I inform my mother-in-law that Jake will stay over to help with cleaning, she makes a displeased face, commenting on how the man of the house shouldn't do such things. Despite her discontent, she seems reasonably satisfied seeing Jake bustling around at his parents' home for my sake. Then comes Christmas lunchtime. Emily, is the corn soup ready? I'm preparing the croutons now. I respond, scurrying around the kitchen to get the carpaccio and corn soup ready. You're so inefficient. I'll bring the food myself, she declares. I'm sorry. If you're going to complain, try preparing a meal for 20 people. It's really exhausting. Finally, the serving is done, and I sit down at the party. Jake, having put our daughter down for a nap in another room, has been supportive. Preparing a full-course Christmas meal for 20 people was challenging, but it feels good to see everyone enjoying my cooking. However, that good feeling lasts only a moment. This quiche looks so beautiful. It's like something you'd buy. Thank you. Geez, you're good at flattery. This carrot slaw is perfectly balanced with the vinegar. The orange scent really freshens up your mouth. That's because Christmas meals tend to be rich, so I made it a bit more acidic. Something's off. Every time someone tries to compliment my Christmas cooking, mother-in-law interrupts. Something is not right, she declares, revealing the source of this awkwardness. Sophia, father-in-law's sister, comments, Emily, mother-in-law, is such a great cook, isn't she? Confused, I let out a dumbfounded sound. Unperturbed, Sophia continues her story. Did Olivia make this entire Christmas feast? That's amazing. Huh? I haven't cooked a full-course Christmas meal in ages. I was going to leave it to my daughter-in-law, but she's absolutely terrible in the kitchen and never comes by, even when I offer to teach her. Mother-in-law talks about struggles she never even faced, leaving me puzzled. Oh, Emily, you should really take after Olivia while she's still well. Jake might miss the taste of home sometimes, you know. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Daniel, a relative hanging around, laughs as if mocking me. You know, Olivia, that pork belly stew you made last time was delicious. It's amazing you can cook both Western and Japanese dishes. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. Mother-in-law smiles and feigns humility. That pork belly stew was clearly my creation. As I stand there astonished, she mouths, "Go along with it." Apparently, she's been claiming all my dishes, including the Christmas feast, as her own and sharing them with the family. Now she wants me to be complicit in her lie. No way, especially after she's been criticizing my cooking all this time. Though I want to speak out. Overwhelmed by the crowd, I find myself speechless until my young son becomes my unexpected savior. "Mom, this omelet is really tasty." "It looks different than usual, but your omelets are always good," echoes his high-pitched voice, silencing the noisy adults. Sophia, perhaps out of kindness, attempts to cover for my son, saying, "Oh, Mike, this is actually what your grandmother made." Astonished, my son responds, "Huh? But it's tasty, so it's got to be Mom's omelet." "Grandma's omelet is super sweet and gritty. It doesn't taste good," he passionately insists, gesticulating wildly, leaving the adults exchanging puzzled glances. Panic ensues, and the mother-in-law tries to intervene, saying, "Emily, don't teach the child to lie." "Excuse me? Who's the one lying here? Mom, am I a liar?" Mike looks up at me, his face full of insecurity. That's when I feel my blood boil. Frustrated, I declare, "Mike is not a liar. The one lying here is you, Grandma." "Huh." She must not have expected me to stand up to her. My mother-in-law looks shocked as I stand up, pointing dramatically at the table. "I made this entire Christmas feast, including the corn soup. Everything from start to finish." Naturally, the room erupts in response. My flustered mother-in-law begins to panic and yells, "Wait, wait, wait. Emily, you've been lying this whole time. Have you lost your mind?" "I'm not lying," I assert. Sophia, pulled into this, looks up at me surprised. "Yes, it was delicious. I made that too." You're terrible, stealing credit for Jake's mom's cooking and trying to set her up." "You're the worst daughter-in-law," I accuse. Attempting to defend herself, my mother-in-law hesitates, then shouts, "It's a secret family recipe. I can't tell you in public." The relatives, initially disgusted by our petty fight, start to see who was in the right. But my husband Jake appears near the door, restraining me with a stern voice and face. "Emily, that's enough." My mother-in-law clings to Jake, looking like a tragic heroine. Jake, addressing his mother, says, "Mom, you're the awful one here. This entire Christmas feast Emily made all day while taking care of the kids. Trying to take credit for it is pretty low." Caught in the middle again, Sophia looks at the creamy stew, recalling how sweet it was. "Yeah, it was insanely sweet, wasn't it, Mom?" Seizing the opportunity, Jake reveals, if it's sweet, it's tasty. She's always been cautious about salt and oil, but uses sugar with no limits. So all her dishes taste like a block of sugar. The truth unfolds, exposing mother-in-law's lies. Disillusioned, the family realizes that all the recent dishes were likely made by me, not her. Mother-in-law, exposed for all her lies, panics and tries to appeal to Jake's emotions. "Why are you siding with your daughter-in-law? I'm your mom," she pleads. The revelation leaves everyone in the family disillusioned with the mother-in-law. "I never wanted to say this, Mom. I thought your actions were driven by loneliness since Dad isn't here, so I've been having Emily put up with you. But what you're doing is nothing short of harassment towards her. There's no reason to protect you anymore. Don't see Emily or the kids ever again." Jake, firm in dismissing his begging mother, starts to clean up the Christmas feast. Then he apologizes to the relatives, saying, "I'm sorry for the disturbance this Christmas. Emily, Mike, let's go." As Jake takes Mike's hand and stands up, Mike glances at his grandmother and asks, "Grandma, where's your I'm sorry?" "When you lie, you say I'm sorry, then you get forgiven, right? Isn't that right, Mom?" I get it. You have to be forgiving when it comes to raising kids, but a simple sorry isn't going to cut it." Luckily, I didn't have to worry for even a second. Mother-in-law clenched her lips so tightly they looked like they'd bleed, clearly having no intention of apologizing. Seeing her, Jake sighed as if he had enough. Grandma can't even say I'm sorry. And she's supposed to be an adult. How sad. Let's go home and have Mom's delicious Christmas feast. Okay. We left behind a growling mother-in-law and confused relatives, carrying our sleeping daughter and the Christmas feast. As we left Mike's house, we went straight to my parents' place and served the Christmas feast. Everyone was delighted and ate with joy. This is what I had been striving for, so my heart was full. Jake, of course, apologized profusely and promised never to let us meet his mother-in-law again. Apparently, the atmosphere at my house remained awkward. His relatives dispersed, leaving only a soulless mother-in-law and some bland food. The next day, mother-in-law's sister and her husband, as well as Jake's sister, visited as promised. Seeing the bland food, they chuckled and said figures. Apparently, mother-in-law's lack of cooking skills was a well-known fact among her relatives. So, you brag about hosting a Christmas feast. I wondered what magic trick you'd pull, probably just jealous of Emily, who's good at cooking and praised by Jake and Mike. Sorry for the inconvenience, they said after hearing the details from Jake. My sister-in-law thanked me for my efforts, and Sophia called to apologize. I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions. It turns out Sophia also enjoys cooking, and we bonded over a recipe for braised pork belly. The misunderstanding with Jake was cleared up, and I found new friends who share my cooking hobby. I felt refreshed, enjoying a carefree Christmas. Of course, mother-in-law wasn't going to back down that easily, but I was well prepared. As I was making cornbread, my phone rang. It was mother-in-law. Excuse me, where are you? It's dinner time. Do your duty as a wife. Are you making the same mistake and coming over again? She's furious on the other end of the line. How dare you? I came here because you didn't apologize. Come home and clear the misunderstanding with our relatives. Then I'll forgive you for embarrassing me. No thanks. What? You'll be the one left out by the family. That won't be a problem. What to begin with, the one who put on airs and got shunned by the relatives was mother-in-law. I've even made plans to cook with Sophia next time. What? Mother-in-law probably never imagined that I become close to father-in-law's side of the family. So, what now? Still got any moves left? I add another blow to the stunned mother-in-law. Also, I'm not returning to that house. What? Yes, the kids and I have been staying at my parents' house since Christmas. We're planning to find a new place to live now that the holidays are over. Initially, living near Mike's family was mother-in-law's strong insistence, but Jake's workplace is actually closer to my parents' house. Didn't Jake tell you to stay away from daughter-in-law? But since mother-in-law can't listen better than a child, we've decided to physically distance ourselves. Right now, Jake is the only one living there, and he'll leave once he's ready. What? Where? Where are you? Who knows? You think you can get away with not cherishing Jake's mom? Yes, because Jake and sister-in-law have forgiven me. It's okay. Well, wait. What? Thank you for everything so far, mother-in-law. I'm so happy I'll never have to see you again. Goodbye. Wait a minute. With a bit of a laugh, I hang up on mother-in-law, who's screaming like a villain in a superhero show. Then I block her number to make sure I never have to hear her voice again. 2 years later. Mom, what's for dinner today? Hamburgers. Yay! I love Mom's burgers the most in the world. Sarah loves them too. Dad loves them the most in the universe. Dad, that's not fair. My family happily waits for my cooking in the living room, playing around as I fry the burgers in the kitchen. My heart warms up again today, watching them eagerly await my cooking, smiles on their faces. Hi, I'm Billy, 28 years old. I married my husband Carl just 2 years ago, but the journey has been far from smooth, thanks to his mother Helena. Our relationship began when Carl and I met at a bar. A right time, right place scenario. We hit it off that night, exchanged contact information, and started texting nonstop, even staying up until 5 o'clock a.m. Our relationship remained undefined for a while. but eventually we decided to make it official after getting more attached to each other. While my relationship with Carl was great, the hiccup came in the form of his mother, Helena. She was a formidable force who always got what she wanted, even if it meant resorting to questionable methods. Though admirable in some contexts, it became a problem when she set her sights on getting rid of me. Helena never approved of me, convinced I was after Carl's money, despite the fact that I earned more than he did. Helena never concealed her dislike for me, always being rude and insulting, albeit behind my back. She went to great lengths to hurt me, from sticking her leg out to trip me to purposefully spilling drinks, either ice cold or scalding hot, on me. Initially, I dismissed these incidents as accidents, but the pattern became too apparent to ignore. Approaching Carl about it, I expressed my concerns. He was adamant that his mom loved me and dismissed my worries as me being upset over her lack of full approval. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I questioned if he would stand up for me if his mother truly disliked me. Carl reassured me, attributing her behavior to overprotectiveness, and suggested giving her more time. Reluctantly, I decided to follow Carl's advice and bear with Helena's antics. I made a conscious effort to be on my best behavior whenever she was around, hoping that, as Carl predicted, she would eventually come around. Whenever I visited, I maintained a reserved demeanor, only speaking when spoken to. It felt like I was transported back to the 18th century, but I was determined to do whatever it took to win Helena's approval. One day, out of the blue, Helena called me herself, a departure from her usual practice of contacting Carl. My heart raced as I answered the call, unsure of what to expect. "Hey, Helena, everything all right?" I asked, my voice tinged with uncertainty. "Oh yeah, of course. I was just wondering if you're free this weekend," she replied. "Yeah, why?" I replied, trying to hide my surprise. "Great. I was thinking maybe we could go out together," Helena suggested. "Us? As in, you and me," I clarified, taken aback. "Yes, I know I've been tough on you, but I want to make up for it," she explained. "Ah, of course. Where will we be going, and at what time?" I inquired, still trying to process the unexpected invitation. "I was thinking we could grab lunch at 1 in the afternoon at Sant. It's my favorite restaurant of all time," she answered. "Sounds fancy," I remarked, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. "Oh, it is. So, you better dress well," she teased. "I will. I'll see you there then," I confirmed before ending the call. I couldn't believe Helena wanted to go out with me. It was strange, but I focused on how my efforts were finally paying off. Despite her previous hostility, she needed time to warm up to me. I shared the news with Carl, who was relieved that the two most important women in his life were finally getting along. As the weekend approached, I eagerly awaited our lunch date, planning my outfit meticulously. When the date arrived, I chose a beautiful pantsuit that Carl assured me Helena would approve of. Upon arriving, Helena scrutinized my attire with a hint of disapproval. Nevertheless, I remained optimistic, grateful that she wasn't berating me for my choice. Once inside the restaurant, we were promptly seated, and our waitress approached. Something about her seemed familiar, and then I saw her name tag, Daisy. It clicked in my brain. Daisy was my childhood best friend. We were inseparable growing up, practically sisters. However, life took us in different directions when her family moved away during 7th grade. Memories flooded back as I recalled our tearful goodbyes and countless sleepovers. Despite the distance, our bond remained strong, but eventually our lives diverged. We both made new friends, and our once frequent contact eventually dwindled to nothing. Over the years, I occasionally reminisced about our past, but as time passed, I gradually forgot about her. However, fate had other plans, as there she was, working as a waitress in the upscale restaurant where Helena had invited me. As Daisy approached our table to take our orders, it seemed like she recognized me too. We exchanged pleasantries, and as she cross-checked our orders, she accidentally spilled water on me. Apologizing profusely, she discreetly left a note on my pants. Confused, I glanced at her, and she subtly nodded towards the note, while continuing to dab at my lap. Curious, I discreetly read the note, which urgently asked me to come to the washroom. Puzzled and concerned, I excused myself and made my way there. After a brief wait, Daisy walked in, ensuring the stalls were empty before hugging me tightly. Surprised, I reciprocated and greeted her, expressing my delight at seeing her again. As we caught up, Daisy hesitated, indicating that there was something important she needed to tell me. "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" I inquired. "With me, yes, but with you, it's not going to be," Daisy replied, concern etched on her face. She explained that she overheard Helena, who was sitting in front of me, discussing plans to poison her daughter-in-law's food with something she was allergic to. "Holy crap, that's your mother-in-law?" I exclaimed, shocked by the revelation. "Yeah, and I'm pretty sure she was talking about you." "I wanted to be careful about any other woman she might bring here," Daisy clarified. "What in the world are you talking about?" I asked in disbelief. "I overheard her planning to poison her daughter-in-law. I'm warning you just in case." "Run," Daisy urged, her expression grave. "Wait, are you sure it was her?" I questioned. "Hold on," Daisy said, producing a discreetly recorded conversation as evidence. While cleaning their table, I discreetly placed my phone in my shirt pocket, slowing down my cleaning process. Daisy, sensing the urgency, quickly found the video on her phone. As described, the footage revealed Helena and her friend Betty talking disparagingly about me, labeling me a disrespectful daughter-in-law incapable of caring for myself or their son. Helena even boasted about tormenting me to put me in my place, referring to my efforts to gain her approval as pathetic. In the video, Helena outlined her plan to test me by surreptitiously adding finely crushed peanuts to my food, intending to mock my allergy and make a scene. Watching this casual discussion about triggering a potentially life-threatening allergic reaction shook me to my core. Helena clearly identified me as the daughter-in-law she was referring to, and I have a severe allergy that could lead to anaphylaxis. Grateful for Daisy's warning, I thanked her for the heads up. She assured me she was just looking out for another woman and expressed relief that she could help. We exchanged phone numbers, and I informed her that I might use her name as an excuse to leave, to which she agreed. Leaving a generous tip, I returned to our table where Helena was visibly impatient and upset. She remarked on my appearance, accusing me of looking like I'd peed my pants. I explained that the waitress had apologized for the spill, downplaying it as a minor issue. Despite Helena's dismissal of the waitress's courtesy, I used the wet pants as an excuse to leave. Helena insisted that I stay and continue the gathering, but I expressed concern about the cold AC and my discomfort. Apologizing, I stated that I needed to leave immediately to avoid falling ill. Helena, clearly disappointed, tried to guilt me for leaving when she had extended an invitation to know me better. Apologetic yet resolute, I explained it was beyond my control and left, encouraging her to enjoy the rest of her time at the restaurant. After expressing my excuse, I left promptly and drove straight home. However, before reaching home, I made a detour to a gas station where I texted Daisy, urgently requesting the video of Helena discussing her plan. Daisy responded promptly, and armed with the incriminating evidence, I resumed my journey home. Carl's surprise at my early return was evident, considering how excited I had been earlier. Without exchanging words with Carl, I headed straight to the bathroom, craving the cleansing heat of a hot shower. Fearful that Helena might have tainted my clothes or hair with crushed peanuts, I scrubbed myself vigorously, repeating the process 3 times. Once done, I tossed my clothes into the wash and scrubbed my hands clean, Carl observing silently from the corner. When I finished, Carl gently prodded me to share what had transpired. Apologizing for my earlier paranoia, I confessed to encountering a childhood friend who worked as a waitress at the restaurant. Carl, puzzled, listened as I recounted Daisy's warning about Helena's sinister intentions. Unconvinced, Carl questioned the credibility of my friend's claims, prompting me to reveal the recorded conversation. As the video played, Carl's eyes widened in shock, realizing the gravity of his mother's actions. Memories of my previous hospitalization due to accidental peanut ingestion resurfaced, intensifying his horror at his mother's planned cruelty. Remorseful, Carl apologized profusely for dismissing my concerns about his mother's behavior in the past. He acknowledged the trauma I had endured and expressed deep regret for not taking it seriously. Grateful for his sincerity, I accepted his apologies, letting go of the resentment that had lingered between us. I understood Carl's perspective. Who could fathom their own mother actively trying to harm their spouse? We discussed his mother's sinister plan at length, agreeing that it was in our best interest to avoid meeting her in person ever again. We didn't want to risk any further harm. That night, Helena called Carl to complain about my perceived indecency for leaving early. Carl was prepared to address the matter. "We need to talk about your wife," Helena complained. "Yeah, we do. So, what do you have to say?" Carl responded. "I knew it. That wife of yours is beyond disrespectful. She left early today, after I took time out to spend one-on-one time with her. The audacity of her. It's high time you leave her. If she can't respect your mother, is she really worth it?" Helena insisted. "Why would she try to respect my mother when my mother tried to poison her?" Carl retorted. Excuse me. I can't act all high and mighty now." "What are you talking about?" Helena denied. "I have a video of you discussing how you were going to mix crushed peanuts into her food with Aunt Betty. Whether it was a joke or not, it was sick. I'm glad Billy was informed and got herself out of the situation fast. Neither of us wants you to visit us ever again. We can chat and video call, but that's about it. If you show up, we will release the video and get a restraining order against you. Goodbye, Mom," Carl firmly declared before ending the call. Carl's assertiveness was liberating, as he stood up for me, expressing the things I wished to convey to Helena from the start. Helena persisted in calling and texting, spewing insults against me. Carl occasionally picked up her calls, hearing her accuse him of disrespecting her by believing his wife's lies. Nevertheless, he always found a way to end the conversation. Initially skeptical about Helena listening to our firm stance, she kept her communication limited to calls and texts for months. Just as we began to relax, Helena decided to visit. Frustrated by her relentless insults, Carl ignored her calls for about 2 weeks. She was displeased with our decision, and in her determination to express her dissatisfaction, she chose to show up uninvited at our house. Her incessant doorbell ringing and shouts for us to open up became unbearable. Despite attempting to ignore her, the persistent noise eventually gave me a headache, prompting Carl to open the door. She pushed him aside and marched into the house. Wary of her evident anger and potential for causing harm, I tried to keep my distance. However, my curiosity led me to observe the confrontation. Helena wasted no time in expressing her displeasure. "Mom, what are you doing here? Didn't we? Don't you start with me, Carl. I'm your mother, and I have a right to know about what's going on in your life." "Sure, but you've never actually asked me what's been going on in my life. All you've been giving me are your unsolicited opinions on my wife. They're not opinions. They're facts. Look, I'm sorry I ignored your calls, but you need to leave now. I'm not leaving until your witch of a wife comes here and apologizes for defaming me." "Defaming? She didn't do anything like that. How can you stand up for her against your own mother?" "I didn't at first, but then I saw the proof, and I couldn't side with you anymore. So get out, please. That proof is fabricated. Like I'd ever try to put crushed peanuts in her food. I'm going to ask you to leave once again, or I will get the police involved." Helena refused to leave, escalating the situation by accusing me of being a family wrecker and threatening to make me pay in the worst possible way. Terrified, I was relieved when Carl called the police, who escorted her away. Subsequently, we filed for a restraining order, determined to maintain a distance from her. Helena persisted in portraying me as evil to the police. This false narrative hurt, especially since I hadn't done anything to warrant such hostility. Facing backlash from Carl's relatives for seemingly villainizing his mother, Carl took a bold step. He placed them in a group chat, sharing the video of Helena planning to poison me and explaining my severe peanut allergy. The relatives apologized and redirected their anger at Helena. Unwilling to accept responsibility, Helena retaliated by blowing up our phones, accusing us of defaming her again. Despite the challenging months, we decided to move on, blocking Helena everywhere and committing to no contact with her. Grateful for Daisy's intervention, I rekindled our friendship and life has taken a positive turn. We've hung out a lot, almost returning to our old friendship. With Helena out of our lives, we look forward to a better and brighter future. My name is Rose Watson, and I've been married for a decade, living separately from my mother-in-law who resides far away. Recently, I learned that she's retired and suffering from a debilitating backache, preventing her from working. Consequently, my husband has been diligently sending her money each month. "Hey, make sure to transfer this month's money to Mom, will you?" he asked. I assured him, sure, no problem. I won't forget. Even if I forget everything else, thanks. That helps a lot. I appreciate it. My husband visits his mother at least once a month, assisting her with tasks she can no longer manage. However, on one occasion, he returned from her place agitated, suddenly accusing me. "What the hell have you done?" Perplexed by his sudden anger, I stared blankly as he continued accusing me. "All this time, I've been struggling to send her money, and you didn't care about my feelings. I told you to transfer $1,000 every month. I did transfer it," I insisted. "I'm telling you it's not been transferred. Do you have any idea how hard it is to send that $1,000? I understand. I've had to take part-time jobs and scrounge for money just for that," he retorted. "Knowing all that, why didn't you send it?" "I did send it. Why are you saying this?" "Just calm down a bit," I urged. "How can I be calm when Mom is struggling because she doesn't get the money from me and has even started doing piecework?" he exclaimed. "But I definitely did send it. Are you saying my mom is lying?" I questioned. "Then there's no way my mom would lie to me. You can't just make an assumption and then get mad when it's not true. I don't even know why this is happening. I've been sending her the money you give me every month. Then why is she doing piecework? She's in pain, lifting heavy boxes. I don't know about that. I haven't seen it. You never go to my family home. I go every month, but you never come with me. You just don't care about my mom," he accused. "That's not true. There's no need for me to go every month, and it's so far away. I don't want to waste my only day off," I defended. "Waste your day off? It's visiting family. How can that be a waste?" he argued. "Well, that's your family. You wouldn't think twice about it, but you don't go to my family's house, do you?" I responded, "Of course not. You married into my family, but I didn't marry into yours. You shouldn't say things like that. It only causes trouble," he countered. "You're the one causing trouble," I muttered to myself, wondering if he even realized what he was saying. Frustrated, I tried to escape to the kitchen, but he followed me, still angry. "Huh. I'm not running away. I just want you to calm down. Maybe we should have a coffee and talk this through," I suggested. "I don't need that. Give me back all the money I've been giving you to send to my mom," he demanded. "Why are you saying that? I'm your wife of 10 years. I've never lied to you. You should just believe me when I say I've sent it," I pleaded. "I bet you've been spending my money. What'd you buy? Where's the $1,000 going every month?" he accused. "If I had bought something, there'd be new things in the house, right? But there aren't. If it were clothes, there'd be new clothes, but there aren't. I haven't bought a single piece of jewelry since we got married." "I don't understand why you're accusing me," I defended. "Even so, you must be using it for something. Or maybe you're saving it for yourself, planning to leave me," he speculated. "Why would you even think of divorce?" "We have kids," I questioned, bewildered by the sudden turn in our conversation. "I would never entertain such thoughts. How am I supposed to know I can't trust someone who lies like you?" Why won't you understand that I've been sending the money to your mom? Then why isn't it reaching her? I have no idea. Could you be sending it to the wrong place? No way. I have your mom's bank account number registered with a bank. Unless she changes it, there's no way that could happen. Then the only thing I can think of is that you're stealing it. Stealing? Yeah, that's right. You're stealing my money, not sending it to my mom. That's it. I want a divorce. I can't be with a thief like you. Let's get divorced. It's clear you've been stealing the $1,000 meant for my mom every month. Hold on. Why does it have to come to this? What about her kids? I don't care about the kids. I don't need a wife who makes my mom suffer. No matter how much I tried to have a rational conversation, my husband just couldn't stay calm. And to say he didn't care about our kids, I've been desperately trying to make him believe me. But it's been hours of getting nowhere. Then there's nothing else to be done. After 10 years together, thinking this, I quietly responded to his demand for divorce. All right, divorce it is. Kicked out by my husband, I left the house with our child. Make sure you file the divorce papers. Conveniently, he had already prepared the divorce papers, as if he knew this would happen. I never thought I'd have to sign something like this, but now there was no other choice. I left the house, went straight to the office to file the papers, and decided to stay at my parents' house for now. My child was shocked by the sudden turn of events, but all I could do was reassure them with empty words. It's going to be okay. Then, after settling down in a new place with my child, I got a call from my ex-husband, Mark. Something weird is happening. Out of the blue, Mark started talking as if we were still married. What do you want with me, a stranger? Now, I know we're strangers. You call me suddenly. Don't even ask about your child, and say something weird is happening. You sound much weirder, you know. Well, here's the thing. I've been sending the money to my mom myself, but she says it's not being transferred. Maybe you're not transferring it. That's impossible. I did it myself. I don't know about that. Maybe you're doing it unconsciously, or perhaps you only dreamed you did it. Don't compare me with you. Then don't call me. I'm not free to deal with this. You're working as usual. So, you're free. How much more will he belittle me? He must think I'm just sitting around doing nothing. My bank statement shows I sent the money. The money's been withdrawn, but my mom says she didn't receive it. What do you think that means? Maybe you sent it to the wrong person. Then where did I send it? I don't know. Maybe you're giving it to some other woman. That's ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous to even have this conversation, but Mark doesn't seem to think so. Anyway, I have nothing to do with it. Wait, that's too cold. You can't just cut ties so easily. I'm not cold. The moment you decided on divorce, you were out of my life. How can you cut ties so easily? A woman doesn't look back. What's the use of dwelling on the past? On you, it's a waste. I'm in trouble here, not my problem. Can't you at least listen to me? How utterly self-centered. All right then, start from the beginning. Tell me what's happening and what's going on. Well, it was the day I said I wanted a divorce, remember? I went to check on Mom at her house, right? I asked her why she was doing piecework, even though I send her $1,000 every month. She said she hadn't received any transfers, so she had to do piecework to get by. Now I get it. That's why you were so angry, and you thought I was pocketing the money. Yeah, that's right. But even when you transferred it yourself, it didn't get there. Yeah, that's what's happening. So doesn't that mean it wasn't me? Well, I don't know about that. When you were in charge, maybe you were pocketing the money. That's awful. If that's what you think, then I'll go to your family's house myself. What are you going to do there? Maybe I'll find out something if I go. Yeah, maybe. So we ended up going to my husband's family house together for the first time in a while. When we got there, his sister was there. Oh, why are you here, Selena? I came back because I'm worried about Mom. What about your husband? We're divorced, just like Mark. Oh, so you divorced and came back to your family home? Yes, I did. When did you come back? 6 months ago. 6 months? Never mind that. Mom, is it true that you didn't receive the money I sent? It's true. It doesn't change the fact that the money wasn't received, whether both of you are here or not. But did you print out your account record in your bank book lately? Yes, I did. Just 2 days ago. Can I see the bank book? Sure, you can't show that. Why would you show a bank book to someone else? You're a stranger now. Why would you think she'd show you something so important? Are you out of your mind? But we can't know if the money really wasn't deposited unless we check. You don't need to see it. Then I'll look. I'm her son. It shouldn't matter. Fine, look. There's hardly anything in there anyway. My mother-in-law said this and then fetched the bank book from a drawer in the next room. But when we looked at the bank book, there were deposits and withdrawals. Look, Mark, there's a deposit from you here, and it was withdrawn the next day. That's quite punctual. Before this, even if you deposited it, it wasn't withdrawn immediately. I couldn't go to the bank much because of my back pain. I would wait until it was absolutely necessary, but since Selena came back, she's been going to the bank for me, which has been a big help. Ever since Selena returned, she's been the one going to the bank. The money was always withdrawn the next day, according to the bank book. Mark and I instinctively looked at her. What? I don't know anything about this, she said desperately. But from what we see here, it looks like you withdrew it, Selena. Mom doesn't go to the bank, and maybe someone else has Mom's card and is withdrawing the money every month. I don't have a card. I'm afraid of losing it, so I never made one, she replied anxiously. Tell the truth, Selena, Mark urged. All right, it was me. Mom told me to withdraw the $1,000 she was getting each month. I saw it was being deposited every month, so I thought borrowing a little bit would be okay. If you're borrowing it, are you planning to pay it back? I interjected. I intend to pay it back. I just don't have the money for it right now, she confessed. Why would you do such a thing? Mark questioned. I really needed the money. I only borrowed it because I had to. Besides, Mom's managing to get by. Isn't that fine? Selena justified. Were you that desperate for money? His mother softened her tone and asked. Then Selena completely changed her tone from her previous assertiveness, now playing the role of a pitiful victim. If that's the case, it can't be helped. Mark was kind enough to send the money. But this is an unavoidable situation. Yeah, if sister was in trouble, it's the family's job to help after all, Mark reasoned. Despite his rage and accusations towards me, Mark forgave his sister as if nothing had happened. Hey, I was called a thief over this, and now you're just going to let it go because it's your sister. It can't be helped. She said she's in trouble. That's fine for your money, but don't you have something to say to me? I challenged. Not really. No, not even an apology after all the horrible things you said to me. Why should I apologize? I don't see any need to. I was hurt by what you said, Mark defended. Such a fragile mental state, I muttered to myself. Anyway, it's not like I did anything wrong, right? Selena was having a hard time, so this happened. It's not Mark's fault. He doesn't need to apologize, his mother supported. Isn't this just like being completely surrounded by enemies? Even if I speak the truth, this place is hostile territory. There's no doubt that anything I say will be met with opposition. Even though a quick look at the bank book would have clarified everything, I had to travel all this way just to be treated like this. Fine, if cutting ties with you costs me this much, it's a small price to pay. I'm leaving. Drive me to the station, I demanded. Why do I have to take you? We're divorced, remember? I don't have to do anything for you, a stranger, Mark retorted. Because I came all this way for you. You asked me for help, I argued. Did I? I don't remember asking you to come. I just wanted some advice. You came here on your own. You can leave on your own too. Mark snapped. That's right. You're not a couple anymore. Why should he take you? It makes sense for a husband, but not for a stranger, his mother added. What a group. No thank you or sorry for solving the issue. After spending 10 years with such a man, it felt like such a waste of time. Fine, I'll take a taxi. I don't need you, I declared, frustrated. I called the taxi and somehow managed to get home. As I arrived home, tears of frustration streamed down my face, and I swore never to listen to that man again. However, after a while, my husband called me. Maybe he had changed his mind and was about to apologize for what happened. Perhaps he'd explain that he had to act that way in front of his sister and mother. But my expectations were shattered. "Can you lend me some money?" he asked abruptly. "Shouldn't you say something to me first?" "Oh, long time no see," I replied. "That's not what I mean. You're being troublesome, you know. It's not normal to ask for money without even apologizing first." "That's not true. We were a married couple after all. You could say we were a united fate." "That's not the case anymore. The day we split up, our united fate dissolved. I still think we're a united fate, though. He keeps saying whatever he wants. So lend me some money, will you?" "Why?" "The truth is, I found out Selena has a huge debt." "Wait, it's been quite a while since that day. Didn't you ask her what she spent the money on?" "I couldn't ask her that. It would have been too pitiful. Money is a delicate subject. Maybe her ex-husband had something to do with it. Or there might be some other reason. Sure, there must be some reason. But you should have asked about it for the future, right?" I trusted her because we're family, and yet there was no trust for me at all. "Well, I've known Selena way longer than I've known you. Yeah, since we were born. That's why I trusted her. I thought everything would be fine, but in the end, it wasn't fine." "So what happened?" "It turns out she had a huge debt, and the $1,000 a month wasn't enough." "How much does she need then?" "She wants to repay it all at once. It's true that paying it off in one go would save on interest, but I don't have that kind of savings. So why did you contact me?" "Because you said you had a good amount of savings when we were in the car going to your parents' house." "I remember." "I was insulted by him, saying I must be struggling without money since our divorce, and that I would have stolen the money if he continued to ask me to make the transfers. Angered by his belittling words and the assumption that I couldn't survive on a part-time job, I ended up revealing that I was trading stocks and making a good profit." "But would that lead to an ex-wife being asked for a loan?" "Selena says she's in debt for $30 million. $30 million? Yes, so please lend me the money. It's okay, right?" "First, why does she have such a huge debt?" I was curious too, so I asked her. It turns out most of it was from shopping, and it's all brand items. She just can't control her desire when she sees them and ends up buying things. She put everything on revolving credit, so the interest adds up, and she keeps buying more every month. Before she knew it, her debt reached $30 million. She's really careless." Mark, laughing off his carelessness, is quite careless himself. She didn't understand how revolving credit works. She thought she could just pay a set amount each month, and eventually it would be paid off. I guess I can understand that feeling. I can't understand it at all. How could she take such a risk? And wasn't this the reason for her divorce? Now she finally realized the interest is piling up, and it's becoming a serious problem, so she came crying to me, but I don't have that kind of money. I told her I couldn't give more than $1,000 a month. Then she suggested borrowing from you. "What? Why me? You said we were strangers, and you didn't even need to drive me to the station." "That's all in the past. The past should be washed away like water under the bridge." What a selfish and convenient way of thinking. Would anyone accept that? "So you could afford to lend it, right?" "Well, yes. I do have that much in savings. Then lend it to me. I just made a lot of money with stocks recently. So you win some, you lose some with stocks, right?" "Yeah, that makes sense. But didn't you say stocks were like gambling?" "Isn't it gambling? You always ridiculed me for playing the stock market, calling it a gamble." "Right, did I? When you wanted a divorce, you hurried to separate because you said having a wife who gambles on stocks would lead to trouble. I said that when I didn't know how much you had saved." So that's why you asked me how much I had. That time you ridiculed me, but then I mentioned I had savings. "Well, yeah, I didn't expect you to have that much, but I'm glad." I inquired, "But even at that stage, you still dismissed it as gambling." "Well, yeah, but let's not worry about it. I was foolish. All right, that's not all right. You are really cruel. And now you want money I saved for our child. You're worrying too much. Our child won't need that money for a long time. It's silly to start saving from now. Money rots if you don't use it. Money rots. I've never heard of money rotting. Think of this as an investment. It's like investing in me. Why would I invest in you? Just do it. Lending me the money would be the smartest move, right? Look, if I lend you money, it won't come back, right? You're still sending $1,000 a month to your mom. Where will you find the money to pay me back? All right, I'll pay back $11,000 a month. Are you crazy? How many years do you think it will take to repay it that way? Don't say that. I really regret it. Regret? Yeah, if we hadn't split up, I wouldn't have to beg you for money now. I have to ask, isn't that unjust? So you're just after my money? No, it's not like that. We don't have love, but we can rely on each other. It feels like I'm only being relied upon. You're so rigid. Thinking like that won't make you happy. We could even remarry. I didn't mind our marriage that much. Wow, I do mind. I don't want to be with someone who can't apologize. Fine, I apologize. Sorry. Is that good enough? What are you apologizing for? Explain in 400 characters or less what you did wrong. I just apologized because you said so. Pathetic. Don't ever call me again. Why? I apologized? So will you remarry me or help me? My sister is suffering. Shut up. Go to hell. Saying so, I forcefully ended the call and blocked his number. Later, I heard from mutual friends that Mark, despite saying it was impossible, couldn't refuse Selena. Being not only constantly nagged by Selena, but also persuaded by his mother to help. Consequently, he ended up borrowing money from a consumer finance company to repay her debt in full. Everything was settled, assuming Selena would work and gradually repay the debt. They thought so. However, far from working, she resumed her shopping habits. Despite having suffered before, she again made purchases on revolving credit. This burden eventually fell directly upon Mark to handle. When they confronted her about why things turned out this way, she reportedly said, "I never intended to buy anything." By the time I realized it, I had already processed the credit. Mark and his mother, naively believing Selena's words, just accepted it, saying she must be sick. They neither devised any solutions nor took her to a hospital, despite thinking she is ill. While saying this, Selena, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry, is reportedly laughing over tea with friends, saying, "Really, Mark is so easy to manipulate." Eventually, they couldn't escape the debt and had to sell their family home. Now Mark, his mother, and Selena ended up living together, but they couldn't afford the rent for the apartment they used to live in, so the three of them moved. Apparently, their life is quite difficult now. It seems only Selena is enjoying it, but neither Mark nor his mother realized this. On the other hand, I continued to profit from the stock market and now live a comfortable life in a spacious apartment with my child. My father has been expanding and generating profits within the company founded by my grandfather. Recently, he promised to transfer a luxurious villa, a mansion, to me. However, I've come to the realization that what's rightfully yours should also be mine as your husband. This mansion is now mine, and I plan to hire you as a housemaid. If you're not on board with that, well, you can always consider divorce. As it turns out, despite the mansion supposedly being in my name, my husband had clandestinely inscribed his own name on the legal papers. Does he genuinely believe that's acceptable? Does he comprehend the potential consequences of such actions? My name is Aaron, and while I don't intend to boast, I was born into a wealthy family. My father, the CEO of several companies, inherited the business from my grandfather, who initially started a small shop repairing and selling TVs and music systems. Over time, the company flourished, expanding into various branches and diversifying into the IT sector. My father's foresight, selling computers and accessories before they gained widespread popularity, proved to be a lucrative move. Besides aita, he ventured into real estate, collaborating with local businesses and actively contributing to community development. My mother served as the vice president of the company, and after studying it in college, I joined the family business. Despite the outward appearance of affluence, we didn't live as extravagantly as portrayed in TV dramas. My father believed in instilling good values, rejecting the notion that spoiling a child aids in their responsible growth. Our family home was spacious, and we had a maid, but as a child, I actively participated in household chores. Dining at fancy restaurants occurred infrequently, and our international travels were limited to once a year, with the majority being local trips. My school life seemed quite ordinary, and it would have been challenging for anyone to guess that my family was affluent. Due to my unassuming demeanor, I dated guys within my age group, just like any other girl. Among them, Michael, who later became my husband, was one of my colleagues at the same workplace. During those times, I worked as a sales representative and office manager at an aid-related shop, and Michael was also a sales rep there. I chose not to disclose that my father was the CEO to my coworkers, making it easier for Michael to approach me. I noticed that he was straightforward and had no reservations. Although I didn't seek extravagance, I'd always suggested places within Michael's budget. During our dates at restaurants, he would order generously, explaining that if there's extra, he'd eat it, opting for a cost-effective approach to enjoy a hearty meal. Some might have considered him a bit frugal, but I found it endearing. Unbeknownst to him, I earned several times more than he did, content with my fair compensation for the responsibilities I held. I unconsciously became accommodating. Michael, always keen on budget-friendly ways to satisfy his appetite, received my gestures with gratitude. During our dates, I'd often bought extra food or thoughtful gifts, knowing he would appreciate them. When shopping for clothes, I would add extra socks for him, and on occasions when I got a new bedspread, I'd include pajamas and a pillow for him. I genuinely enjoyed making him happy. Even when visiting his home, I willingly cooked for him and took care of the cleanup. Out of the blue, Michael proposed to me one day, expressing that there was no one better than me. At that moment, I hesitated, harboring reservations. After all, my father was the CEO of a major company, and he held a prominent position at my current workplace. I feared that if Michael were to discover this, he might reconsider our relationship. Deciding to take Michael to my parents' home for the first time, I aimed to introduce him to my family and disclose everything about our background. If he accepted it all, I would be more than willing to marry him. As Michael's inaugural visit to my family home approached, he appeared visibly nervous. However, my dad, though strict on occasion, generally exuded a calm demeanor. When I presented Michael as the man I was contemplating marrying, my father welcomed him with a warm smile, alleviating some of Michael's tension. Although surprised to learn about my father's CEO status, Michael managed to navigate the visit smoothly with my father's supportive demeanor. Upon leaving the house, Michael exclaimed about the enormity and magnificence of the residence, expressing gratitude for my father's kindness. He even suggested that we could get along well. When I casually mentioned my dad's ownership of additional buildings and a vacation home, Michael appeared more astonished. Despite the revelation, he resolved to marry me, the daughter of such a prominent man, and I agreed wholeheartedly. Eventually, we became a married couple. However, something bothered me. At the moment of accepting his proposal, I noticed a slightly mischievous grin on Michael's face for a split second. Dismissing it as his quirky way of smiling, I didn't dwell on it, but perhaps had I paid more attention, I could have averted the impending tragedy. As Michael and I moved into a typical, not overly luxurious apartment, he seemed to grasp the significance of my father's status. Yet I never explicitly disclosed my income, maintaining a modest lifestyle. Gradually, Michael's demeanor changed after settling in. While I balanced work and household responsibilities, he started demanding more. One evening, as I prepared dinner, he asked, "What's for dinner tonight?" In response, I informed him that I had prepared his favorite curry rice. However, to my surprise, he appeared dissatisfied as he sat on the sofa. Letting out a sigh, he expressed his desire for something like a prime beef steak once in a while. This caught me off guard, as he had never complained about my cooking before. I pointed out that prime beef was quite expensive, but he clicked his tongue in annoyance, insisting that, considering my father's earnings, indulging in prime beef occasionally should not be a big deal. Reluctantly, I agreed to get prime beef for the next day. Michael smirked, stating that we should be able to enjoy such things normally from now on. While my salary could afford such luxuries, my previous lifestyle had instilled a reluctance to spend so extravagantly. However, to avoid issues early in our marriage, I resigned myself to the decision to actually cook prime beef steak. Unfortunately, Michael's lavish tendencies did not stop there. He frequently requested expensive ingredients for meals and specified upscale restaurants when we went out. His cravings extended beyond food, manifesting in desires for a TV larger than 60 inches and even suggesting we should purchase a massage chair for the sake of relaxation after work. These remarks became more frequent, and I began to feel that it was getting out of hand. I questioned the need for such extravagant items, expressing my concern about the expenses involved. Frustrated, I finally retorted, asking him if he thought we were made of money. I challenged his extravagant lifestyle, stating that living so lavishly was unnecessary. In response, Michael made a displeased face and clicked his tongue again, expressing his discontent. He argued that, as the husband, he contributed to the household expenses and insisted that I should listen to him. However, his statements puzzled me, as his contributions, while appreciated, did not amount to a lavish sum. In fact, I contributed more, a fact I never disclosed to him. Despite my substantial financial input, he made these assertions without hesitation. This change in Michael's behavior left me questioning his mindset. He was not like this before, and I couldn't comprehend why he had changed at that moment. I found myself in a state of confusion, unable to comprehend Michael's recent behavior. In response to his audacious requests, I decided to temporarily appease the situation by telling him, "All right, I'll think about it." Little did I know that the explanation for his bold behavior would become apparent just a few days later. On that particular day, my father summoned me to the office of our shop where I worked, claiming that he had something important to discuss. While Michael was engrossed in his work, my father entered the office and initiated a serious conversation. He expressed uncertainty about how much longer he could continue as the CEO and hinted at the possibility of me taking over in the future. Furthermore, he mentioned transferring the vacation home to me. This vacation home, briefly mentioned to Michael earlier, resembled a large lodge located about a 30-minute drive away. It was a place where my father used to host gatherings with town shop owners, under the guise of meetings. Although such meetings were no longer held, the house was consistently ready to be lived in, maintained by a housekeeper. My father offered me the freedom to use the vacation home however I wanted. This proposition left me torn, as I had no concrete idea of how to utilize such a property. The vacation home boasted over 6,000 square feet, with a lavish garden surrounded by nature, akin to a mansion. Lacking the social connections to host significant parties, I contemplated keeping it as an asset. I conveyed to my father that I would positively consider his proposal but needed more time to make a decision. He assured me there was no rush and left a contract on the desk before departing the shop. Returning home after work, I leaned towards accepting the mansion, intending to give it further thought the next day. However, the following day brought an unexpected turn of events. Upon arriving at work, I discovered that Michael, who typically arrived before me, was absent from the shop. Intrigued, I entered the office only to find him there. Instinctively, I asked, "What are you doing here?" To my surprise, he flashed a document in my face, stating, "I overheard the conversation about the mansion yesterday. Sounds like an amazing deal, right?" Dumbfounded by Michael's audacious move, I reluctantly signed the document he flaunted, a contract my father had handed me just the day before. Shockingly, Michael had inscribed his own name on it. I was utterly taken aback and couldn't help but express my disbelief. "What on earth are you doing?" I questioned him, but Michael, without a hint of remorse, casually responded, "Why not? Your dad said he's giving away an amazing mansion, right? If you won't decide, I figured I'd take it." He said this with a smirk, but there was no way I could accept it. Persistently, I pleaded with him, emphasizing the house's worth of $4 million and my father's intention to give it to me. However, Michael dismissed my concerns with a nonchalant laugh. $4 million bucks? Dan, that's impressive. Think about it. I have the right to this mansion because you're my wife, and I'm your husband, so I have a right to what's yours. Moreover, your dad really likes me. He probably won't have any complaints. So from today, this villa is my house. If you live in a wealthy house, you've got to make use of it. How about I hire you as a maid in this mansion? If you have any complaints, I'll divorce you anytime, he confidently declared. It was at that moment when I recalled Michael's past actions and words, and everything finally clicked. He seemingly had no qualms about taking from others, even if it meant practically stealing, without feeling guilty. During our dating days, I'd always showered him with gifts, but he never reciprocated. My giving nature might have corrupted him, leading him to believe that what was mine was automatically his. My dad's kindness to Michael likely made him feel my father was easy to manipulate, and perhaps he perceived me as even more gullible. With a plan forming in my mind, I decided to confront him. I declared, "Fine then. This mansion is yours, but I'm not going to be your maid. Let's get a divorce. Take care." After that, I returned to my job and, during my lunch break, called a divorce lawyer to initiate the process. Michael, seemingly unfazed, responded with bravado, claiming he was fine with it and canceling the lease on his current place. Little did he know that tragedy was about to hit him, and he just hadn't realized it yet. Later, I went back to my parents' place and shared everything with my father. From that point on, everything unfolded according to my plan. A few weeks later, Michael called me in a state of panic, having received an enormous bill. While his shock was understandable, it was only fair, considering the fixed property tax on the $4 million house he had claimed as his own. I casually informed Michael that he should expect to pay around that much for the property tax. However, he appeared utterly clueless, lacking knowledge that paying tax on owned property is common. Normally, my father would have covered the tax if he had received the property, but upon hearing the entire story, my usually calm father was furious. Despite my warnings about my father's strict nature, he declared he can have it if he can afford it, and accepted the property transfer to Michael. To be honest, a part of me wanted Michael to learn a tough lesson, and there was no way he could afford the hefty amount. Frustrated with Michael's persistent pleas, I decided to deliver a final blow. The annual property tax, I revealed, amounted to about $60,000. It dawned on me that Michael always had a mindset of trying to take advantage of his friends, possibly driving them away and leaving him without anyone to teach him common sense. Acknowledging that I may have been a bit unreasonable, I admitted that my once cute perception of Michael had drastically changed. Without any sympathy left, I hung up the phone. Subsequently, Michael couldn't sustain living in the house and faced forced eviction. Realizing he couldn't afford it, my father reverted the property deed back to my name, incurring the gift tax himself. Meanwhile, Michael faced severe consequences. He was fired from his job and charged with unlawfully changing the property deed. He received scoldings from his parents and was shunned by acquaintances. Now jobless and friendless, he barely scraped by in a rundown apartment, working odd jobs. His parents were even considering disowning him. As for me, I've been gradually preparing to take over my father's company. My father once told me that success in business doesn't come from looking for shortcuts. Reflecting on the fact that I almost married Michael, I deeply understand the truth in his words. Inspired by my father's greatness, I push forward every day in my involvement in running the business.